everybody, and welcome in. It is 7:01 on your Tuesday evening. We are broadcasting Tuesday night tune-up TNT live from Smoky Row in Oskaloosa. We do thank all of our sponsors for making our broadcast possible with this local race show. That includes Chris Minter with Milo's Tree Service, Sinclair Napa, Van Donslar Automotive, Sigourney Body Shop, Sigourney Motors, Sigourney Tree Care, all the Sigourneys, and we've got Christy Tarr at American Family Insurance jumping on board as a sponsor. Let's take it to Safe and Curtis to start things off tonight. Guys, how's it going?
Well, good evening, race fans. Welcome back to TNT, Tuesday Night Tune-Up. It has been a long week since we last had a show, and guess what? The co-host is back, Curtis Vanderwall. Curtis, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I apologize for missing last week. We had some out-of-town sporting event for my youngest, and didn't make it back in time. So apologize for that, but we'll try to be here as often as possible now. So.
Hey, not a problem, Curtis. You know, sports is a big thing, whether it's something that's not racing or it is racing. I mean, we all know how that goes. So.
Yeah, no doubt. It's cool to see the activities your kids are in, and Cole does bowling in the winter and tennis in the spring, and tonight was his last one. So now he's in full race mode too. So.
Well, there we go. Well, that's what we're here to talk about now, race fans, is racing. So let's get down to it. This is our intro part of the video. We do want to talk about here first, before we get into our interview of the night with Case and Keller, we do want to talk about the Southern Iowa Speedway.
Yes.
Finally got their season opener in last Wednesday night. And we do want to go through the winners from that. First off, this young man has been racing sport compacts for a few years now. He took a 2-year hiatus from racing, comes back, gets the win on opening night, driving the number 41 in the dirt and asphalt sport compact class. That was Nathan Moody.
Yeah, you know, Nate's a super great guy, and he comes to our shop and talks to us a lot. As a matter of fact, he was over earlier tonight, and he is. It was just so. I was in the hotel in the Detroit area for work, and he texted me 9 o'clock or whenever he got done, and man, that was really cool to see, and a long time coming for him. You know, like you said, he took a couple years off. And he had some family stuff with some stuff that he had to deal with. Got everything ready for last fall challenge last year, and then we rained out both nights. So then it sat ready to go all winter, and he was itching to go. So he's looking good, but he's not resting on that win. He's still trying to get better, and we were talking about some handling things this weekend, and he's full speed ahead. So excited to see what the summer brings, you know. And then I think if I'm not mistaken, Brandon Allison, who's a neighbor at the race shop, he was right there with them in second, and I look for big things out. You know, they may be small cars, but they're big. Really bring big excitement to the big half mile.
They do, and you know, I've known Nathan too for a long time, and you know, just hearing his story, and you know, he tragically lost both of his parents, and he came back with a full head of steam. And he's one of the only guys running a Honda. You know, he's running a Honda in a whole class of Cavaliers. So, I mean, he's going really outside the box, and he's really showing that those little Hondas are pretty mighty.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. You know, and he's just such I mean, for lack of a better term, he's just a good dude, right? He helps Joel Davis with the Redneck Rally stuff with his van, and devotes time and energy and resources to that. And he just is as good a guy as you're ever going to run into, and extremely knowledgeable, and very smart, and has that drive to get better. I'm a big fan of the sport compacts. You know, I know a lot of the guys in it, and it's great. I love it because we're getting that Cavalier versus the Honda things kind of rearing its head, and that's always exciting to have a little bit of a rivalry between the makes.
Absolutely. And now we're going to talk about the Clow Valve non-wing sprint cars. We are having a few more drivers in that class this year, which is great to see. And, Oskaloosa native, and he's won at Oskaloosa before in other classes. A.J. Johnson driving the number 93 car.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think he won. In a stock car or sport mod, and now the non-wing card. And from all accounts, even though maybe the car count was a little low, and maybe some of the things, some of the regular players in seasons past weren't there. It sounds like he had that thing on a string and looked really good. Again, I didn't see it, but I've heard from more than one person that he looked really good and did a great job, and I have no doubt. So
absolutely, AJ has won at Knoxville in the Pro Sprint Series. So I mean, it's a young man that's really worked his way up through the racing world here locally, and it's awesome to see a guy that wins at Knoxville can come back in a non-wing car and compete. That's a very tough class. I mean, there's not a ton of those cars, but I mean, they are good drivers in those cars, and it's a lot different driving a non-wing sprint car.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That speaks volumes. It's a way different way to drive the car. The wing in a lot of cases, you talk to the wing guys, and there's not very many of them that are willing to venture out and try the non-wing deal. And to his credit, he's doing it, and he's doing it extremely well. And that's kudos to him, and I hope that we can get more people. I think the Fair Board kind of stepped up the pay in that class, hoping to draw some more cars out. So we'll see how the season goes along, and hopefully the field continues to grow. I know the O-Town Outlaw maybe had some engine issues, but it sounded like he's getting those wrapped up, and hopefully we'll have things back out there so he can continue to run the weekly show. And then I know he does some traveling on the weekends south to the state of Missouri and Kansas and stuff to run with that series down there a little bit too. So should be exciting. I think it's shaping up if we get this weather to cooperate. I think that's another class. There's a bunch of storylines, and the fans are they're in for a treat, I think.
I agree with that. And the next up, we have the sport modified class, driving the number 29 car. Colton Lizzie picking up the win. He's had a lot of battles between chassis issues, engine issues, and all sorts of things. And it's great to see Colton back in victory lane. I mean, that was a tough class. I mean, you have McGuire DeYoung, who's back. You have Carter Vandenberg,
Absolutely.
The Flying Dutchman, running, and you have Kyle Harwood, who has become a really talented wheelman in that 15K. Unfortunately, Kyle had hit a tire and broke some of his front suspension, but kept going really on three wheels there at the end. But I mean, and Trent Brink, he had a rocker arm come off, unfortunately, on his, so that kind of dinged him back. But another really tough class with some of the best sport mod drivers in the state of Iowa. So it's tough, and all about that class, Curtis.
Yeah, you're exactly right. For years I've said that every class at Oski, you could take the top 6 or 8 cars and stick them at any other track in the state or country, and they're going to have a chance to win. And the sport mod class is definitely that. But you're right. It's good to see last year's track championship Colton come out of the gate strong. Like you mentioned, they've had their fair share of bad luck, sometimes in large quantities, and that's nothing you ever want to see. But you're exactly right. You go to Carter and he drives sometimes, and he puts some other people in the car sometimes, and concentrates on the crew chiefing and stuff. And then you've got the DeYoung family that always come to the track, loaded for bear, and then Trent, and then. You've also got Kyle, and then you had Trevor Tanner and our first week guest Jason Van Zarmeren out there, who are both making strides and getting faster. And I just
and Will Wolf.
Yeah, and I can't forget last week's guest, Will Wolf, either. He's made the commitment to step up and run the big track this year, and it's going to be another barn burner of a class. I think that top to bottom, you've got a really strong field there.
Absolutely. And then this guy came out and won the hobby stocks and the stock cars. This guy he has been wicked fast, and the trajectory he's been going on is right up there. None other than the driver of the number 10G, Dustin Griffiths. Putting it out there, had to get around Todd Reitzler and Jason McDaniel. There was a great battle for first, second, and third in the stock car class. Dustin moved up half a lane, got around Jason. Todd got stuck in the back, and then Dustin just seemed to drive away there towards the end of that feature. So in the hobby stocks, I mean, he was towards the front, was able to get out there and win that one. And it was another very tough race through the whole thing from the start to the finish in the hobby stocks. I mean, that is a class that brings some cars here on a Wednesday night, always at least, 3/4 full, almost to a full field every Wednesday. I mean, it is the class right now at the Southern Iowa Speedway.
You're exactly right. I think both of the full body car classes are just stacked, quite frankly. And Dustin, again proves why he's won so many races and so many championships. They come out of the gate hot, and he's got that SPA chassis on the stock car side, handling and going really good, and the rest of the field, they're Todd and Jason and Kaysen and all the rest of the guys in both classes are just ready to rock. And there's, again, same thing. You could take the top 5 or 6, 7, 8 from any of those classes, plug them in anywhere, and they're a threat to win. So that's a beautiful thing about the Southern Iowa Speedway is our competition's second to none, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, all right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with our guest for the night, Kaysen Keller, in just a few moments. Steve, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Safe and Curtis. And let's take a look at some of our sponsors that make our broadcast possible for you local race fans. That is Milo's Tree Service. You can call Chris Minter at 641-683-2627. We thank Sinclair Napa. Get more information at sinclairnapa.com. We go to Van Donselaar Automotive, 641-676-5239. To Sigourney for all of our Sigourney sponsors, including Sigourney Body Shop at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney. To Sigourney Motors for sales and service, give them a call, 641-224-8056. Sigourney Tree Care, owned and operated by Zeb Webb, 641-622-2097. And our newest sponsor here on the Tuesday Night Tune-Up, Christy Tarr, the American Family Insurance Agent. And you can contact her at teamtar@amfam.com. Those are our sponsors for the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. Let's take it back to Safe and Curtis and their guest. Guys, take it away.
Welcome back, race fans, to TNT, the Tuesday Night Tune-Up, as we are now live here at Smoky Row with the one and only driver of the number 71K, Kaysen Keller. Kaysen, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So a little back story on you. It looks like from 2017 to 2020, we saw you running a Sport Compact. And then from 2020 to 2023, we saw you in the hobby stock. And now you're running Sport Mod and a stock car now currently. Kaysen, you've been moving up the classes and stuff. So what has that been like for you, starting in a compact and now running a Sport Mod and a stock car?
It's been a whole lot of changes driving-wise and working-wise for maintenance and all the upkeep, and just moving from quick steer to rear wheels, from front wheels and a stock steering box has been a pretty big change.
So has there been anything you were able to take from your time in a Sport Compact to get you into a stock car or anything like that, or a hobby stock?
Not much, really, just a lot of motivation and want to do good, and that's really all I can think of.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, there's some things that correlate, right? I mean, as far as maybe lines around the racetrack, but the way something handles, that's obviously significantly different in the front-wheel drive or the Hornet class. And then you've got, like you mentioned, the horsepower and steering differences from the hobby stock to the Sport Mod, and then from the Sport Mod to the stock car is again another change with the heavier car and slightly slower lap times, and it's a little bit different style of racing, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about what you've experienced so far this year with the stock car versus a Sport Mod in the last few years.
Definitely a lot less side bite in a stock car, and a lot more wanting to roll over with the car, and a lot more throttle control for sure through the whole corner. And when it's black slick in a stock car, it's very easy to lose control of it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have very much aerodynamic help like you do with the spoiler and the flat sides on the sport mod, and the little bit extra power in the stock car with the slight engine differences certainly doesn't make that any easier, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Now, here's one thing, Curtis and I have already mentioned this, and then, I want your perspective being a driver right now. You've ran a sport mod, now you're running a stock car. The competitiveness and the drivers that are in that, what are you seeing from your point of view being a driver? I mean, how's that going?
It's hard. There's some of the best that we race against now every week, and especially here at Oskaloosa, like you guys were saying earlier, the top 5 in every class or even top 10 is just really, really hard hitter and go anywhere, and they can probably win or be a threat to win the thing. It's tough, but it's fun.
Yeah, the old adage, steel sharpens steel, right? So you compete against some of the best around every single week at a track like Oski, where everything has to be right on your car. You can't be off on your tire work's got to be spot on, your chassis got to be good, your brakes got to be good, cooling system, drivers got to be going, your setup, all those things have to be right there. So what is it like when you go from a track like Oskaloosa to, let's say, maybe Boone or Vinton, where I know you've raced a little bit so far this year? What do you let the fans at home kind of know a little bit about the changes you have to make as a driver between the two differences in racetrack?
Yeah, you got to think more on like the small tracks because they get slicked off faster. Just you got to think about your tire work, how low you want to run the pressures compared to like a big track, how much you want to grind them differently and groove them depending on feature and heat, and compared to a different track because they get slicker usually, and a lot more throttle control, like I was saying.
So how hard is it going from running a big track like Oski to running a smaller track when you think of Wise on the track with the other cars? What's kind of your mentalness having to go into a big track versus a small track with maybe more traffic?
On a small track, for sure, you can like throw it in there a little bit more and get away with it. On like Oski, you throw it in and lose a little bit of traction, you lose all your momentum, and the other car's just going to get away from you. And I learned that the hard way a couple times, but
I think we all have. It's easy to a small mistake on a big track is a big mistake. Whereas on the smaller tracks you could sometimes maybe get away with that a little bit more. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, and then I feel just getting ready for lap traffic and stuff is probably a lot different on a smaller track. You're a lot closer with those other cars. So what's that like for you, knowing, having to really decipher which lane you're going to go to on a small track to get around that guy versus a big track? What goes through your head in that whole process of having to pass on a small track versus a big track?
Yeah, on a small track you have to have a pretty quick reaction, think really quick on what you're going to do and hope it works. On a big track you can see them coming a little bit more and have more time to think about it really, and with the longer straightaways on them you can see the car where they enter the corner a lot quicker than you can on a small track, and then just shoot below them or above them, whatever you choose.
So, Kason, what kind of chassis are you running on your stock car, and are you still racing your sport mod, or are you just in the stock car now? Okay.
I got rid of the sport mod about halfway through the winter this year.
Okay, so what kind of chassis are you running in your stock car, and how is that translated as far as help and support with that chassis around here?
I have a 2018 Victory, and the old owner, Dustin Griffiths, he's been helping me out a lot, and Curry has too, and there's a lot of support with the cars, and the old chassis builder they still make the parts for the chassis, like quarter panel support and just like body support in general, and it's just really nice. There's a lot of help in them, and same with like sport mod too. In about every class, there's a good handful of support.
Absolutely. I think that's been a big thing, and interviewing people and talking to them about, chassis, why they choose certain ones, has been the amount of support in the area for that chassis. But not you have that aspect, but then it seems everyone goes for the chassis that guys have been winning in and stuff like that. I feel like that's, you have a few guys like Carter Vandenberg, for instance, running a different chassis than anyone else around here and having very good success with it for the most part. So, I feel like that's always been an interesting dynamic of why people go with a certain chassis choice. But I can see why now, because of the support that you have when you go to your track or talking to other people. And so then on a shock package wise, what's that looked like for you as far as figuring out what shocks brand you want to go with, and who's helping you with that, and why you chose that option?
Yeah, I've been friends with one of these guys at BHE for a while now, and he convinced me to have him build some shocks for me when I was struggling early on in the year. And they helped a good amount too, and like I said, the help from the other people with the car. And I've just went with BHE the last 2-3 years, and been a pretty good decision so far.
Absolutely. They've been a powerhouse around here for a while, and shock building and stuff like that, it seems,
Yeah, very, very knowledgeable group there, and they do a good job from their race car stuff up through, kind of have a good history with building cars and fabricating stuff, and then up to the suspension and tuning and driving assistance, all those things. They pretty much do it all up there.
Absolutely. And so, Kaysen, if anyone's wanting to come watch you, where can they come find the 71K in action this year?
So I plan on racing Oski mainly every week, and bounce around from like CJ on Fridays, Donaldson on Saturday, Vinton on Sunday, just depending what I can afford and which one looks the most promising weather-wise. And
yeah, the pesky weather's kind of been tough on us here the last couple weekends. So
it's been rough. So, well, Kaysen, it like you said, costs and everything like that. Obviously, it takes a lot of great people to get behind you and help you. Who do you want to thank for helping you and sponsoring the 71K team this year?
I want to thank Keller's Garage, Orwig Cattle Company, Rolling Thunder Stage Rentals, Glasscock Floors, Oberhelm Motorsports, Regal Motorsports, and Vans Racing.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of great people to back you and support you, Kaysen. We really want to wish you luck in the 71K this year. We hope that you have just a great season and you can keep on going out there and making strides to get faster and faster each week. So, not a problem. Well, all right, race fans, that's going to wrap up tonight's interview portion of TNT, the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. We'll be back with some more exciting news in just a few minutes.
All righty, thank you, Safe. And yes, let's do a run through our sponsors making our broadcast possible for tonight. That includes Christy Tarr at American Family Insurance, all your protection under one roof. Also, our sponsors, all from Sigourney Tree Care. We've got Sigourney Motors. I just took my car into Sigourney Motors for an oil change just a few days ago, so make sure you check out things with CJ Fitzgerald at Sigourney Motors. Sigourney Body Shop, Tony and the guys at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney. We thank Van Donslar Automotive at 641-676-5239. Sinclair Napa, sinclairnapa.com, as well as Milo's Tree Service. Give Chris a call at 641-683-2627. Let's go back to Safe and Curtis and get more of tonight's Tuesday Night Tune-Up TNT. Take it away, fellas.
Man, I just love it when Steve does that. That's just the best. That's the best. I know. Yeah. Hey, copyright. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do it.
It's Dynamite.
Oh, boy. We're going to go too far down a rabbit's hole there.
All people are hearing is me on the microphone. They're not seeing me. But I just finished off a great hamburger here at Smoky Row in Oskaloosa. So if people ever want to come in and harass us, throw things at you guys while we're doing the live show, they can do that. We're live at Smoky Row. They want to come in and say,
Safe, you suck at this. That'd be fun.
some random heckling from the gathered crowd. Okay. So,
woo!
But anyway.
Man, we got a whole 5 fans. Like, woo! Hear them all over there.
Oh,
So
boy.
we're doing TNT. Let's
Okay,
talk racing,
okay,
guys.
well-
Let's get back on track.
All right. Well, before Steve cuts us off here, we do have some winners, and all of them involve Mother Nature except for 2. So,
Mother Nature is always undefeated.
track champion, multiple time
Yes.
track champion that they never talk. I'm telling you, Hall of Fame voting, Mother Nature. I've never seen her on the ballot. Well, that's because she never is retired.
Yeah, she's
So-
still active, and especially in the upper Midwest here lately.
Absolutely. So first off, we'll start talking about with the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series.
They had a rough weekend,
They
didn't
had a
they?
really rough weekend. They were supposed to be racing at Knoxville Friday and Saturday, their first time in, I believe it was 10 years that they've come in the month of April. So I know everyone was gearing up to see David Gravel and the shots.
It was going to be exciting, and they went 0 for 2.
They did go over 2. You know, we have so many great drivers, and this week I did something a little special. I even put the point breakdown for the top 5 so we
Whoa.
can see. I know. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
This is big time.
So here's why is because Knoxville, everyone in the top 5 is so good there, and this could have potentially really shaken up the points tree. And the reason is David Gravel is leading over Donnie Schatz, but only by 34 points. David, though, does great in time trials at Knoxville, but so does Donnie. So that could have been interesting because they would have had to break it up into a Group A and a Group B. And depending on where those 2 would have fallen, we could have potentially had a real close points battle, or even possibly our first change of the whole year in the World Outlaw Sprint Car Series.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's there were a lot of fans and industry folks excited for last weekend, and then Mother Nature came in and kind of ruined it. But the other 3 in the top 5 are no slouches at Knoxville either. How's the rest of the points stacking up in the top 5?
Gio Selzy's only 52 points back. He's in 3rd. 4th, we have Logan Schuchart at 64 points down. And in 5th, only 68 points behind, we have Carson Macedo. So it's actually a really close battle. And again, cannot stress enough, qualifying is everything in the sprint car world. So
Yeah, one of those guys has an off night, and they could go from 1st or 2nd to 5th or 6th in a hurry, and just the opposite. You know, a guy has a really good night, he could go from 4th or 5th and up to 2nd or 3rd maybe. You know, it's a long way to go in the season, but things are shaping up to be exciting there. When they running next, and where?
So May 1st, so that's
Tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah. Had to think on the fly there, which I'm not always the best at. They're running at Jacksonville Speedway for a new race
Over in Illinois. Yep.
Yep. This is a new sponsor into the deal. This company has been growing more and more in the racing community. They sponsor the IndyCar series right now. They're going to be sponsoring a NASCAR race at Newton. None other than Hy-Vee. So they're calling it the Hy-Vee Perks 40. So Hy-Vee has really stepped up, and we'll talk about that later on.
Yep.
But so Jacksonville, Illinois, tomorrow night you can watch that live on Dirt Vision. And we'll segment that into the next bit here.
Maybe watch the replay after you get back from the Southern Iowa Speedway, right?
Yes, you do need to go to Southern Iowa Speedway tomorrow night, but so we'll segue that into the next World of Outlaw, which is the late models. Again, Mother Nature wins one at 81 Speedway.
It was not a good weekend for the World of Outlaws on either side of that fence, was it?
Not really for anyone, no. So, again, points are really, really, really close in that deal. Brandon Shepard still has the lead. Only 24 points behind him is Chris Madden, Old Smoky. Then you have Nick Hoffman at 34 points down in 3rd. 4th, you have Cade Dillard at 36 points down. And then in 5th, we take a pretty big jump there, and we go to Tyler Brewing from Decorah, Iowa. He's 82 points down.
Yeah, that top 4 is again, it's tight, and
really tight.
and they're all amazingly good. And especially, you know, anytime you do it at that level, you're going to be amazing. and that's the same thing. Very similar format to the sprint cars. So the time trial deal is a big thing for you. So where does that traveling road show end up here later this week?
Oh man, they are going to be at my favorite track this weekend. They're going to be at Mississippi Thunder Speedway over in Wisconsin for the Dairyland Showdown with the US MTS series.
That'll be a pretty good pair of shows this weekend, right?
That Alex and I were blessed that we got to go there a couple years ago to that race. And if you want to talk about one to make sure you turn into Dirt Vision and watch, it's definitely the Dairyland Showdown. I mean, two of the best traveling series in the U.S. getting together, and these guys are a complete riot on that high bank track in Wisconsin. It's a fun race to watch.
It's a racy joint, and they put on a heck of a show up there. So that'll be pretty slick. Staying on the late models for a second, it looked like Ricky Thornton won a pair of them this weekend out east. I think he won Thursday night and Saturday night. Friday night at Hagerstown got rained out, or was it Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Anyway, the middle race got rained out. Ricky won the other two, and he might be finding his stride again. Everybody has been kind of talking that it had been 8 whole races since he had won.
Eight races.
I know. And he looked really good this weekend on that stuff. So how about what do you got going on the back to the sprint car side? How's things on the high limit world?
High limits, man. Well, kind of another Ricky Thornton deal here. Corey Day made his way back to Victory Lane. A whole 3 races that we didn't see Corey in Victory Lane. The young man out of California, but he absolutely has one of the best people wrenching on that car, which is Jason Myers. So
yeah, that Jason Myers team is pretty dang good, and he has been running really good. I know Brad Sweet snuck in there and got a couple wins over the last couple weeks. But yeah, Corey Day's got big things. He's I'll say this, dirt fans, enjoy him while you can, because the rumor has it that he ran his first pavement late model race for Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s late model team in Hickory, North Carolina, Saturday night, and they had twin features. Ran 8th or so, 7th or 8th in the first one, and won the second one.
yes.
So that's a pretty good entrance into my old stomping grounds with the pavement late model stuff, and he's got a very bright future. How the points shaking out in that high limit deal?
Well, believe it or not, Tyler Courtney Sunshine, he's still in first. Brad Sweet second. Corey Day has found himself back in third. Brent Marks still in fourth, and we finally had a switch up there for fifth. Jacob Allen dropped one spot now down into sixth, and Spencer Baston is now the fifth driver. When you talk about the point shakedown again, they don't rely as heavily on time trials, but it is a little more than anything else. So Tyler Courtney able to retain that. Plus he's been
he's been off
top
consistent.
4. Yeah.
So that's nice, and it was nice to see Thorson run good.
Yeah, Tanner
Thorson. I think he was second to Corey Day at Riverside. So kind of some interesting things with some crashes at Riverside, though. So they may have to do some facility improvements there before World of Outlaws comes back this fall, right?
Absolutely. I don't think safety can get downplayed enough when we talk about sprint car racing, because historically over the last few years we've lost so many great drivers to safety.
And I don't think it's even just the last few years. I think it's forever. And I think that we maybe had a time frame where maybe we didn't have that quite as bad, and we kind of got lulled into a little bit of maybe false sense of security. But there's just not much there. As sprint car fans know, there's not a lot of anything there besides the seat and seat belts. There is a chassis, but it's not very far away from you, like in a full-size stock car. So there's the emphasis needs to be on safety. I know the manufacturers and the sanctioning bodies have taken some steps in recent years to try and bolster that with some additional roll cage bars and stuff like that in those cars. But at the end of the day, the racetrack's got to be safe too, and we cannot ever have a situation like they did in those races where you had some cars going through the fencing, and that's something that I think racing in general and competitors especially, we're all guilty of it. We probably don't necessarily pay quite as much attention to that as we should, and this is a good time for all facilities just to kind of do a check, make sure their stuff's up to par, and nobody wants to spend any money that they don't need to, but in this case, I think that facility is probably at a need to situation.
I think they probably will if they want to host those big races.
Because the show was amazing.
Yeah,
I mean the racing was
show.
Unbelievable. So it's just it's something that they can build off of, and it looked like that it was a well attended event. So maybe they hopefully turned a profit, made some money there, and then can sink some money back into the safety and the catch fence set up there to get that improved so that we can continue to enjoy amazing races there.
Yeah. And speaking of amazing races, I haven't done a good job of this, so you can't heckle me anymore. Dover International Speedway had the last NASCAR race. Denny Hamlin won. Young Money got second, and then we had Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott. So good spread of really great drivers there at Dover,
Yeah, you bet. And it kind of had some, from what I understand, had some tire maybe issues that we kind of maybe saw at Martinsville or Bristol, where we were not able to get a bunch of laps on a set of tires, and there was some fall off, and it sounded like, correct me if I'm wrong, but listening on the radio last weekend, it sounded like Larson was coming at the end and just couldn't get it done. So
tires fell off.
Yeah, so that's good. NASCAR's got a lot of heat over the last few years, and in my opinion, deservedly so. They produced a new race car that's produced subpar racing, and they need to get it fixed. And you can find hundreds of opinions on that out there, but that's a big deal. So
go back to the 09 Cup cars.
I don't disagree. I think
we've gone too far.
The car was not bad, and they took a road race car and for some reason made a road race car the car that they need in NASCAR, and I don't fully understand that, but
I don't either. It should have stuck to the Le Mans project.
Just let that do that. But anyway.
All right, folks. Well, that has been your results recap of the night. We're going to take a short break and come back with the juice here in just a few minutes. Steve, why don't you tell us who we have sponsoring tonight?
All righty, guys. We do thank all of our sponsors for making our broadcast possible tonight. That includes Milo's Tree Service. We also say a big thanks to Sinclair Napa, as well as Van Donsler Automotive. We send a thanks over to Sigourney Body Shop, as well as Sigourney Motors. We'll throw in Sigourney Tree Care, and then our newest sponsor for our program is Christy Tarr, your American Family Insurance agent in Oskaloosa. And let's go back to Safe and Curtis, guys.
Hey, welcome back, race fans, to TNT, the Tuesday night tune-up. So we are on our last segment of the night. We have some more juicy stuff to go through here with you, more drama like we did last week. First off, I apologize for last week. I went kind of down a rabbit's hole there a couple times, not going to lie, but I think it was much needed. And also, real quick, thank you to all the sponsors that sponsor this. It means a lot to Mike and Curtis and to all the drivers that we have come on here and interview with us, so it makes our lives a little easier when we have great people that get behind and like doing this. So thank you to all of our sponsors out there.
Without a doubt, no different than racing itself, right? Race cars generally don't run very long or very far without good sponsors and good support system around the racers and their families. And this is no different. The show probably doesn't exist without the folks supporting it. So support those that support racing and this show, and we thank them for their support. It means a lot.
Thank you, Curtis. And talking about support, I'm going to start on this first, even though I have it further down the list. This guy has won the King's Royal. He's won at a lot of the big tracks out in Pennsylvania and stuff. He was the face of a video game for the sprint car community, and an all-around guy who at least I looked up to a lot growing up, and that is Tyler Walker. Young man, had a very bright, promising career, won a pile of races. He was on track to be, a lot of guys compared him to, a younger version kind of like a Steve Kinser or a Danny Lasowski. And, unfortunately, Tyler got in with some bad people, made some not fantastic choices in life, and all of a sudden, about a month or so ago, Tyler kind of popped back up. Out of nowhere.
Not in a good way,
No.
Unfortunately, and I hate to see that. You're right. I mean, there was a time where the sky looked like the limit for him. He was in good equipment, doing great things with it, and had a bunch of support and a lot of people in his corner. And then like you said, made some maybe not the best decisions, which none of us are here to judge that. Because,
No, we're not,
because
and don't think we are.
we've all, every person on earth has made not the best decisions at times in a myriad of different things. Some of us, have questionable decisions every single day. So, like my outfit that I wear, or the way that I comb what's left of my hair, So, but yeah, it was, and that deal that he had was a cry for help, I think, and that's again where the racing community comes in. Share a little bit about what you know on that, Safe.
Sure. So, all of a sudden, Tyler Walker just appears out of nowhere on Facebook. Posted a video out there of him and this. It said, "Hey, I'm going to be on Facebook Live tomorrow with an update of where I am and stuff." And there were some people that figured out he was living in a broken down RV in the slums of Los Angeles, still having a drug issue, unfortunately. And he went live. It was a very short video. He didn't really say a whole lot, and I hardly recognized him in the video. And right then, the racing community knew that this was a cry for help. So, some of the drivers from out in California and some other people that knew Tyler very well got in his corner, backed him up, and currently Tyler has gone to a drug rehab center. From that, I don't have an update on if he's still there in the program, but the racing community still cares for Tyler because we know what he's done. He's still a part of it, and that's the amazing thing about the racing community. You guys compete weekly. You still help each other out. You still all care for one another at the end of the night. And to see the community come around someone like Tyler, who means so much still to a lot of people, in that, we can help him in this. And, we all pray and we all hope that he'll stick with this now. But, it's great to see Tyler in a rehab facility. I'm guessing he'll probably never race again. It'd be cool if, but you never know.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The thing that I think we all need to keep in mind is Tyler the person is a lot bigger than Tyler the racer, right?
Absolutely.
There aren't too many race fans that wouldn't love to see him get back in a race car when he's got everything right. and do amazing things again, because he truly is an amazing talent. But his welfare and well-being is what's at stake now, and that's why it's so important that he gets the help that he's currently getting, and it's great to see. And we may not know anything for several weeks. We just can all hope and pray that that everything goes the way it needs to with him.
Absolutely. And so we have a sprint car driver who's getting help now, and now we're seeing a guy who's been in the late model world getting into a sprint car with Brandon Sheppard, your current World Outlaw late model points leader. He's won the championship with them, and then all of a sudden one day on Facebook, I see a post from B-Shep saying, "Hey, I have a big announcement coming soon," and everyone's like, well, what could he possibly be doing now? And then the next thing you know, boom, there's a photo of a sprint car with his paint scheme on it. And I think everyone thought it was an April Fool's joke.
I know I did.
I definitely thought it was a joke. No, it's a legit thing that's going to happen, is Brandon Sheppard getting into a sprint car.
Yeah, I saw some video that Justin had on Dirt Tracker on YouTube here last week of him testing the sprint car at Fairbury American Legion Speedway, and he was getting with it. This is no joke. I'm not going to say he's going to win or anything like that, but it appears to be really good equipment, and I think that he's focused on it. So
absolutely, it's cool to see these guys that run late models or get into a sprint car, or guys that run a sprint car get into a late model. We're starting to see, I feel like that's becoming more of a trend. And even with the midget drivers and the USAC non-wing guys, we're starting to see this big melting pot now, more than I think ever that we saw before. I mean, the last guy I can really remember that did it really good is Jack Hewitt.
Yeah, Jack Hewitt could obviously drive anything. Maybe Howdenshield won the Mopar Million. He's a wing guy that is traditionally known as a wing guy and won the non-wing deal. But you're right. There's a myriad of people that have come from the USAC and non-wing stuff and come over to the wing stuff and are amazing competitors in there. And then you've got Kyle Larson, who is a throwback to anything. I mean, he's fast in the IndyCar. He's a Winston Cup or a NASCAR Cup champion. He's wins dirt late models, wins the Knoxville Nationals and sprint cars. But even someone of his ability, as we were talking earlier, he's in the wing sprint car deal. He's been a little bit of the struggle bus lately. Do you have any insight into what's going on there?
Just watching replays and everything, it seems like about every sprint car race you watch that has Young Money in it has ended in some kind of wreck, upside down, got with another car or something. He's in a really bad slump right now.
Yeah, and
we've kind of gone from who we know as Young Money to kind of young no luck.
Yeah,
it's been weird.
You're right. He hasn't had a bunch of luck, and I think that plays into it. But I think that he's just searching a little bit for that comfort, right? And once he finds that back, whatever that may be, is it a different, is the tire different or the shocks different? Is it a different chassis? All that stuff we don't know, but he's maybe searching for that feel, and then because he is so immensely talented, sometimes he tries a little hard, and I think he's the first to admit that sometimes he tries too hard.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of racers, including myself, are guilty of that sometimes. So,
well, I'm wondering too, and this might not be relevant to this at all. He has a lot going on with racing. He's the sprint car with the high limit series, trying to keep that going. Hendrick with their big anniversary, trying to run a NASCAR, a lot of stuff going on there. And then you add the IndyCar stuff with the Indianapolis 500. I'm just wondering, is his mindset all there right now necessarily on the dirt side? Or are we seeing maybe where it's kind of a different Kyle Larson right now just because maybe he has so many priorities that maybe this is I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It is. Here's my take. I think you're potentially right. But I think we saw this in the midget. when he was doing the midget stuff, and there for a while he was super fast in that, and then he's also had some situations where maybe that car wasn't quite as fast, and then he's just got to buckle his head down. Did his sprint car and dirt racing crew chief, did he not just have did they not just have their first child recently?
Paul.
I was thinking Paul Silva. Paul and Natalie just had their first baby here in the last month. So, maybe Paul's understandably been pulled away from being able to spend as much time on there. It's tough to say. I don't think we need to send out an SOS or anything.
Not yet.
Obviously, he ran really good in the IndyCar at the test a couple weeks ago and last weekend in the NASCAR deal. So, it'd be interesting for something to keep our eye on. What else you got going here in the juice?
Well, a big thing talking about sprint car racing, really all of racing right now is engines. There's a lot going on with engines.
Yeah, parts shortages, parts not being high quality, counterfeit parts. I heard some things about that where on the drag race side of things, there's some people making counterfeit parts with a different company's name on it and all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of goes back to that whole supply chain thing where things that aren't necessarily made in the U.S. or delayed getting here. I think I heard a funny car driver from here in the state of Iowa was waiting on a set of gears to be able to run their funny car, and they're going to miss some shows. So, it's an interesting deal with the parts situation.
I think we're going to see an interesting year for drivers through all the classes and even up to the pro stuff with like the Outlaws and stuff, because last I knew, a lot of the components like valves and cams and stuff are on a shortage. I was told the other day that some of these parts are on a 26-week back order.
Wow, that's
it's bad.
Not good to hear.
On your end, maybe knowing, heck, I'm going to have to run this motor longer than I want before it's either freshened or something. In your mind, what would you do in this kind of situation?
That's interesting. At the local level, we really don't have that, because you're able to run the engines for 30, 40, 50, nights, depending on your program and stuff like that. But it's an interesting thing to talk about with the national touring guys, where the sprint car guys maybe run 4 or 5 or 8 races maybe on an engine and it's got to go back. Well, if there's no parts to freshen that, what do? Do you run that 10 or 12? Then does that lead to some engine failures because parts were getting to the end of their useful life? That's a good question, and I think it's a storyline to keep our eyes on throughout the summer months here.
I think it's definitely something we are going to see, and we'll have some more news on that. But the other one is, I feel like this is a big talking point, is sanctioning bodies. As far as the cost of racing has gone up so high, who can afford it? Is there something the sanctioning bodies need to change to maybe help out with some of that, or is this just what we're going to have to live with now?
That's a good question, and I don't think it's unique to racing, right? I think everything in the last 3 years or so has skyrocketed. I saw something the other day where like the average grocery item that we all buy, whether that's bread or milk or cereal or whatever, has gone up somewhere between 30 and 60% in the last 3 years in cost, and I think that's just true across the board. Racing parts are certainly not immune to that, and you're right. Tires go up a lot, oil, gas, all that stuff goes up, and it's never been more expensive than it is now. But at the same time, it's that doesn't make the work any less. You probably have to work harder on your car in today's world than ever in the history of racing, even at a local level. So you're exactly right. I think personally there are things that sanctioning bodies can do. Unfortunately, for stuff like at the level we do it, without making a major rule regression and obsoleting a lot of equipment that people already have, I don't know that there's a lot that can be done there. I've got some ideas that I think could help that, but at the same time, on the national levels, I think that there's a lot of things you can do. That's back to that new car in NASCAR a few years ago. That's what that was going to be. It was going to be all these common parts so that everybody could buy the same thing and this, that, and the other. And it was going to lower the cost, but I don't think that it's lowered the cost. I think it's lowered the quality of racing, and the teams are still spending the same amount.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And, it's funny. Everyone wants to point fingers at different sanctioning bodies and stuff for, well, if you did this, it would make it more affordable or whatever. But you're right. I mean, the cost of goods have gone up. And, it's one thing, though, I think that sanctioning bodies need to look at, though, is what can we do to help these guys? And I think you're going to start seeing that. I think we're going to get to that point where, I mean, really, who can afford to race right now?
That situation, and I think that from more than just a monetary standpoint, right? Because you've got, who can afford time-wise to race, right? Racing takes a lot of time, more probably than it ever has. Does that mean you need more help at the shop? Yeah, it does, but there are so many other things for people to do, so there's less people involved, and it's more than just the monetary standpoint. But you're exactly right. It's other than someone who has a lot of sponsorship or is independently wealthy, it's really tough. In the upper levels of racing. Kaysen is a good example that we had here tonight. Here's a young man that works incredibly hard at his job, and he pours every cent that he can into his racing program, and then he's got a good amount of sponsors and family support behind him.
Absolutely. So that's all that we have for the juice here. A few things, if you want to come watch some races this week, Lord willing, tomorrow night at the Southern Iowa Speedway is...
Fingers crossed.
We have free popcorn night from DeYoung Manufacturing, so we hope to see all of you race fans out there. Hot laps start at 7:15 with all the racing action to follow. Maybe after the races, come down the pits, get an autograph from Curtis or myself, take a photo, whatever you want.
Yep.
We will have Sharpies ready.
Always. But on a serious note, if anybody has questions or if they have guest ideas or whatever, don't hesitate to comment or message Steve on the different social media channels and do that. We'd love to have input. What you think we're doing right? What you maybe think we could do better? Besides replacing the hosts.
That's not happening.
If we could leave that off the table,
that'd be great.
Currently, but it's just great, and that's the cool thing about this format is we want to make this interactive so that we're bringing the racing community closer and making everybody a part of this. So we hope Mother Nature cooperates here the next week, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Friday night, you have a couple different choices for tracks. You can go over to Marshalltown Speedway, or you can go down to one of my personal favorites, which is CJ Columbus Junction Speedway. A lot of the Oski guys go down there on Friday nights, so make sure you stop at either of those racetracks. And then Saturday night, we have Boone. And I'm trying to think who else is running Saturday night this week.
Lee County typically will for a while, but I don't think that they are this week.
No,
but then of course we've got the Knoxville Raceway as well. So and I think Eddyville. The local drag strip gets going maybe this weekend too.
I think you're right. So you have plenty of things to go and look forward to. Again, a lot of races you can watch on Dirt Vision or Flow Now or IMCA TV. Those are your big three for
all
that.
The streaming services are alive and well, and really handy. If you get out to the track, then you can watch a replay of what you miss.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap up tonight for the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. I'm your host, Safe Grafke, and with me again, our co-host, Curtis Vanderwall. You all have a great night, and we'll see you at the races.